Good evening and welcome. This is NDTV Profit and my name is Alex Mathew. The big story today. Social media erupted last evening after Algerian boxer Iman Khalif won a welterweight fight in the ongoing Paris Olympics against Italy's Angela Carini in 46 seconds flat. In the fight, Carini didn't appear to defend well and the punch that landed in the end was taken full on the face. The controversy erupted because of allegations that were made on social media that Khalif should be disqualified from the women's event because she has the XY chromosome and so is a man. Now, this is clearly a sensitive issue, but one that needs to be addressed. And let's first look at the facts. Iman Khalif qualified for the Olympics in Paris and, according to the International Olympic Committee, followed all of the rules. In a statement issued yesterday, the IOC said that all of the athletes participating in the boxing tournament of the Olympic Games Paris 2024 comply with the competition's eligibility and entry regulations, as well as the applicable medical regulations set by the Paris 2024 boxing unit. It referred to two athletes without naming them, but the inference is that the athletes are Iman Khalif as well as China's Lin Yuting. Now, in its statement, the IOC says, and I quote, "These two athletes were the victims of a sudden and arbitrary decision by the IBA towards the end of the IBA World Championships in 2023. They were suddenly disqualified without any due process," unquote. It also said that the eligibility rules should not be changed during ongoing competition and any rule change must follow appropriate processes and should be based on scientific evidence. Now, the IBA disqualification therefore becomes an important point to discuss. The International Boxing Association has come out with its own statement. The context here is important to note. The IOC de-recognized the IBA in 2023 following its suspension in 2019. Now, take a look at the IBA statement. It said that the decision was made after a meticulous review and that it was important and necessary to uphold the level of fairness and integrity. Interestingly, it also said the athletes did not undergo a testosterone examination but were subject to a separate and recognized test. The specifics have not been disclosed. The IBA claims that the tests conclusively indicated that both the athletes did not meet eligibility criteria and were found to have competitive advantages over other female athletes. There was no mention of the XY chromosome, but a Reuters report at the end of July quoted IBA President Umar Kremlev as saying that both the athletes had the XY chromosome pairing. Arguments have been made on both sides, but my guest today will hopefully help to objectively discuss and debate the issue and possibly suggest the ideal way forward. I'm joined today by Sudhanshu Mittal, former Vice President of the Indian Olympic Association and President of the Kho-Kho Federation of India, as well as Dr. Ishwar Gilada, an expert in infectious diseases, but also someone who has made a statement about this and has discussed the medical rationale about what is being said. I'll come to you first, Dr. Gilada, just to talk about the medical facts here. XY chromosome, generally associated with men, but also in certain situations found in women, versus XX chromosome, which is only found in women. Is there a potential for the creation of an uneven playing field in the world of sport?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. Your viewers should understand one thing very clearly, that all of us have 44 XX, XX is female, and 44 XY is male. And in the next generation, if there is a gamete formation, there is a 22X from female and 22X from male comes, it will become a female child. 22X from female and 22Y from male comes and 44XY is a male child. In this particular case, there is a differentiated sexual determination. And that is the reason that the differences are not clear, and therefore it is a 46XY syndrome. In 46XY syndrome, there are two kind of hermaphrodites. One is called real hermaphrodite, where they have both male and female sexual hormones, genital organs. and pseudohermaphrodite, they may have a male or rudimentary or partially developed male sexual genitalia, but inside they are female, or vice versa. In this situation, there is a definitely 46XY, and 46XY is the two chromosome extra. Now, these kind of all developments happen during embryological period. That is when the child is in the womb of a mother, and that differentiation happens around 12 to 16 weeks. So, if there is a scan which is done during that period, which nowadays is a very common in big cities, that they do anomaly scan at 14 to 16 weeks, and so this is decided even at that time. Now, when the child is born, then during the infancy period, during 1 or 2 year period, the parents and the doctor who is delivering the child or a pediatrician should look at all these factors. Now, in this case, where there is an adult, the factors to be seen are most important is ultrasonography. If the female, the person comes as a female, in ultrasonography, uterus is absent, ovaries are absent, then there is ambiguity. Now there are two bodies or two different bodies. They are giving different opinion. When there are two different opinion, then you should take a third opinion. But basically, this is to be objectively decided whether there is a level of some kind of testosterone or hormones, which are Leydig cells and Sertoli cells level. Secondly, sonography shows that there is a presence or absence of uterus.
Dr.
Inside.
Dr. Gilada, what I want to know, Dr. Gilada, what I want to know, and you've very aptly described the medical process, but what I want to know is that the XY chromosome, the presence of an XY chromosome and the potential for the production of high levels of testosterone, is that tied to the ability to perform better physically than a woman? Is that medically sound argument to make?
Yeah, as soon as Y comes, Y is male.
Yes.
So Y is a small or big or Roman or whatever, Y is male. So in this sense, either that person is described as a male or you want to describe this as a third sex. For last 4 decades, I have been fighting that there should be a third sex. And I worked in government in JJ Hospital in Mumbai. And 40 years before, I started making a case paper with a third sex as a either H, like a hijra, that time they used to call, or a third sex. Now it is recognized in passport, recognized in voting, recognized all over the world. Either you can describe the sex or you don't describe the sex, but you can also describe the third sex. In this situation, when there is a third sex, that person can be either playing as a male or playing as a third sex. That person cannot be female. So a female put against a third sex person or a male, because he's a Y definitely, is an unequal competition. And that's the reason that Olympic Association has for male, there's a different tournament, for female, there's a different tournament.
Okay.
And there are also tournament for paraplegic.
And that's exactly...
You do a third sex tournament.
That's exactly the clarification, doctor, that I was seeking, that there is an uneven playing field that is created. Sudhanshu Mittal is joining in. Sudhanshu, thanks so much, first of all, for taking the time. Why is there a difference in the treatment or in the reactions between the International Olympic Committee as well as the IBA? Because it has been said that these two athletes have participated in several competitions over the last several years and have been allowed to do so. The issue arose when the IBA disqualified them last year.
You see, that you were allowed to participate is not an argument which is sustainable. If an objection is made at some point of time, and if they undergo a test which establishes that they're not females, then certainly any federation or any body would be well within their rights to take action. Now, I have a few observations. You see, as far as the International Olympic Committee is concerned, the consistent stand has been that every single discipline is administered by the international body of that discipline. And the rules they follow are the rules which are then implemented. In this particular case, what has happened is that because IOC superseded the body of the International Boxing Federation and administered the game of boxing directly in these Olympics, so they have had to make this choice. Now, That is a history, but what is important is what is the solution. As Dr. Saab explained, look, the moment there is a presence of Y, it cannot be X. It can be X plus, but it cannot be X only. And the competition when it comes to females is between X's. So either you have a separate category which says that XYs are a separate category. If the administrative body of the game wants to conduct a separate tournament, so be it. Otherwise, the moment there is a presence of Y, it establishes the presence of a male harmonial system. And that obviously has an advantage over a pure female anatomy. So in that case, let the person compete in the male section.
Okay.
But to permit somebody with identifications in the female category would not be desirable. So it is now time, looking at the example which is now there before us, that a uniform standard is established. Look, this is not the first time a controversy of this kind is broken up. It had earlier happened. It had earlier happened in athletics, in swimming, in boxing, in wrestling, so many other games.
Mr. Mittal, an argument that is being made in this case is that, of course, and you've countered that argument right at the start. One of the arguments, which is that she was able to participate in events in the past, and the IOC has said that based on the passport, she is woman, and therefore they have allowed this to pass. No. That is the second point. The third point that people have said is that she has competed against women in the past and has lost. I want you to talk about the third part.
You see, again, this is not a valid argument for the simple reason. Let me go by each of them. First, a passport certifying somebody as a female. Every country has a different methodology which is followed today. India, for the first time, has now had a separate category. Earlier, it was only white or black, which means either male or female. Now, that certification of country, is it sufficient for an international body to accept it on its face value when it is challenged? No. The moment when it is challenged, you have to undertake a test and an examination of the athlete and decide whether it is male or female. Secondly, competing in the past, as I said, is no benchmark that since you competed, so you shall compete. No, that's not valid. Third, even if you lost, so what? Point is, you may have had a female who's better than a male. Does that make it permissible for a male to compete against a female? No. So on the logic of it, I am not in agreement with it. Okay. I'm not in agreement.
Now to stretch this, and I did not mention this at the start because I do not believe that these two issues should be conflated. Now, however, as normally happens on social media, there are tangential arguments that are often made when a situation like this arises. Mr. Mittal, with your experience of having been the Vice President of the Indian Olympic Association and understanding how things are governed in sport, there has been an argument made over the years for trans individuals to be allowed to compete. Now, do you think that these two issues should be kept entirely separate? And is there a solution that can be found for this holistically?
As I said, transgenders are a reality.
No, there is a difference between...
Let me explain. Yeah. I mean, there is a difference. I'm not even debating that. But when you look at the conventional purity of the proposition of an X or Y, there is a gray area, right? Now, in that situation, let's be innovative, na? Let us have a separate category. Why leave doubts? You know, a winner must be a winner. As they say, an apple must be compared to an apple and not an orange. So when you are in a competitive sport, you must compete with your likes. Now, you can't be competing with somebody who's not like you, whether to your advantage or to your disadvantage.
Yeah,
that's not a fair argument.
Dr. Gilada, do you want to weigh in on this? It's important to draw a distinction between a trans individual and what it is in this case, because a trans individual can be XX that has transferred their sex or transformed their sex to male. Is that possible?
No. I will just differentiate very clearly.
Yes.
I did my dissertation 4 decades before on pattern of STDs, sexually transmitted disease in Hijra cult. And before my dissertation, I went to Tata Institute of Social Science. There were 6 dissertations. They said that we made so many Hijras, and they said they are born like that. So my understanding that they are born like that, that means they are born as a hermaphrodite or pseudo-hermaphrodite, and that was dead wrong. The Hijra cult or transsexuals or transvestite or eunuchs, they are a totally different category. None of them is born as a hermaphrodite or pseudo-hermaphrodite. They are born as normal male. They are sex abused, and they have a mind gender identity of a female. At a particular point of time, they want to deviate from male and they want to become female. So either they get castrated, or even without getting castrated, they cross-dress and they remain as a female.
Right.
So in this category, they are totally third category.
Right.
But whether hermaphrodite and pseudo-hermaphrodite should be clubbed with them, there cannot be fourth category.
Yes.
Therefore, they can be clubbed with them as a third category if they want to, or they can be male, but they can never be female.
Yes.
All transsexuals,
Thank you.
particularly male which are becoming female, they are having XY. They are not XX.
Thank you,
There
doctor,
are
for
people
that.
who would like to become male, they can be only XX.
Right.
So there are people who are changing from the trans woman or becoming men.
Yeah.
They will have XX.
That's-
And all this can be in a category which is LGBTQ and trans category.
Yes.
And rightfully, Government of India started having a third category where you are neither male nor female. You can describe you there.
Yeah.
So I think hermaphrodite and pseudo-hermaphrodite, they should be categorized as third sex.
Yes.
They are neither male nor female. You cannot differentiate, and that's the reason that they're different.
Thank you,
And that
doctor,
was
for that
in the
clarification.
media.
In fact, that's the reason why I had you on the program, to tell us about the medical fact of this situation. And I hope that we've been objective. I think that we have been objective in this conversation. Of course, things get blown completely out of proportion in certain situations on social media. And hopefully there's an objective answer to this as well. Sudhanshu, Mittal and Dr. Gilani, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us on this program. That was Sudhanshu Mittal as well as Dr. Gilada on this conversation on the big story. We've got more lined up for you after this very quick break, so do stay tuned.